Hey kiddies, while I'm out in rehab, enjoy this throwback episode. Thanks for all your support, and stay tuned for more content when we return from our break. Also, can you help a brother out with a clean urine sample? In the meantime, check out our socials, visit our website, nfipodcast.com, and swing over to Patreon to check out members-only available content. No further information. It's a podcast for cops and the people who make those urinal cakes that you piss on. This episode will focus on cops. The storyteller you're about to listen to is wise beyond his years. I also only had to yell at him 5 fucking times during this interview. He's a great guy, a great friend, and he always does the right thing. You're about to hear from Officer Lopez, a city street cop.
Hi, I'm Officer Lopez, and I'm a police officer.
I would describe you nervous in a good way. Nervous in a good way because to your benefit, you're always second guessing your decisions. You're always saying, is this the right thing? Am I doing this the right way? Mm-hmm. Where does that come from? I mean, is it fear of getting in trouble? Fear of getting it right?
Yes, I think it's a little bit of both. I think because the way law enforcement has come now today, how it is now today, you see it all the time where the officer, fucks up, or the officer could have done this better, or the officer could have done this better. And because he didn't make that decision, now he's, going through circumstances where it could have been prevented. So I think it's a good thing and a bad thing. Honestly, I think in the field, I think we're always going to second guess ourselves. But it also can be a bad thing because if you're in that hostile situation, if you're second guessing yourself, you don't know what to do, then it could potentially be something really bad as well.
Do you remember your first arrest?
Unfortunately, I don't. I do believe by myself. We did get an arrest while I was an FTO, but I don't remember my first arrest. Unfortunately, no.
On your own, you don't remember?
I don't remember.
Most people remember.
I know, but I was hearing your podcast yesterday, and I was like, damn, I can't remember when my first arrest was. That's crazy.
Do you remember among your earliest?
I do. I think one of my, I would say probably about maybe my first 1 to 5 arrests. It was a lot of marijuana. It was a good seize. That's my biggest one that I have, that I feel accomplished to have found.
Do you remember how much you got?
I believe it was about 5 pounds total, maybe, I think. 5 pounds of marijuana, along with a revolver, supposedly some stolen AirPods and stuff like that.
I don't think you're giving this story the credit that it deserves. So what did you stop this guy for?
So I stopped him because he, what initially caught my eye was because he made an immediate left lane change. So I was just like, that's odd. And he didn't do it until, again, I was right behind his vehicle.
Now let's buckle down on this. Is this unsafely, without signaling? What are we talking here?
So he made a legal lane change. He signaled,
right.
But it was just the fact of the immediate lane change that I saw. and that which I was just like, that's odd. It kind of caught my eye, so I ran the.
You know, and who can articulate what's odd, right? Who can articulate why is it weird to you?
Well, I think as police officers, we can articulate it as the more we run into traffic stops.
Yeah, but
we see the normal flow of traffic, and we're just like, that's not normal.
Yeah, but you're 17 minutes into the fucking job, you know.
Yeah.
Like, so that's good. I know it sounds insulting, but it's meant to be complimentary. You pick up on that observation.
Yeah.
You pick up on that. So something seems odd, and you. What did you eventually stop him for?
I got an expired registration return.
Right.
Whenever I ran his return,
Which we probably need to come back to later on in the story, right, about the registration.
Yeah.
So you get him stopped, and then what?
So I stop him, and then as soon as I made contact, you could smell the marijuana out coming from inside the vehicle.
How many people are in the car?
It was one single person. So immediately, whenever I pulled him over, he just showed really signs of nervousness, and not the kind of nervousness whenever you get pulled over by police.
Sure.
You know, I think as you do a lot of traffic stops, and I have done a lot of traffic stops in just a short period that I've been a cop.
We were traffic heavy.
Very, very. With almost 12 miles of of a certain highway, then yes. In a small town, that's pretty much. I'm not gonna say all you do, but it is kind of.
Well, we're not as call for service heavy.
Correct.
We weren't as call for service heavy. So, you get up and you're talking to him, and what are your moves here? This seems like an easy layup.
So yeah, I made contact with him, and his story just isn't adding up. I can't recall exactly what he said, but at the time, his story wasn't adding up. And I checked the registration. He did point out, he was like, "Well, I have a current registration sticker." Right. So I rotate over to the A pillar, and sure enough, he does have a current registration sticker.
But it was
that
expired.
Displays. But in the system, it had indicated that it was expired. Yes. And at that point, again with the marijuana that I could smell coming from the car, I pulled him out the vehicle and then called for backup. And when I was searching the vehicle, that's whenever I found it was like 5 bundles of marijuana inside of the vehicle.
At this point, is it the most you found?
To this day, yes. It's the most weight I have found, yes.
And what's going through your head?
I've never encountered this before. I'm just like, what do I do? I've never, at this point, I'm only maybe, I would say probably maybe not more than 2 months out of FTO. I think not more than 2 months. But
yeah, and so what are the investigative steps? We is it Mandel? Is it just straight up possession? What are you asking? Who nobody takes a class in drug interdiction 17 minutes out of the academy. So
no.
What are we thinking here?
So I'll be honest with you, because we had such low call volume, it's kind of one of those things where you may not experience everything that you may experience out whenever you're out of FTO, in FTO.
We sure the fuck tried.
Yeah.
We sure the fuck tried. Because we got into some shit.
It was kind of one of those things where, I'll be honest with you, I watched a lot of cops and TV shows and stuff like that. Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
A fucking piece of shit.
It does have a benefit, though, I would say.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't.
In my opinion,
it doesn't. It's stupid. Yeah.
But
let me ask you this: do you still watch Cops and all these stupid shows?
No.
Right.
No.
Every cop does this, right?
No.
Before they get on the job, they're like, "Oh yeah, Cops and live PD. Oh yeah, look at them. I'm gonna fucking be just like that." And then as soon as you get on the job, you realize how fucking stupid that shit is, and how reckless and fucking dangerous all the shit that they do on camera is.
Yep.
And you say, "Yeah, I have no interest."
Well, to that point, with TV shows like that, most of those recordings are being done out of state, and so they have to abide by their state laws. And I feel like it's good to kind of see how tactically officers handle those kind of situations, but legally applying law, it's not the same.
I would even argue that they're bad for tactics. I would argue that is not the way to handle these types of calls, and there's a lot of showmanship for the cameras.
I agree.
And it's picking and choosing. They don't pick up the 98% of the job that's just sitting around on our asses with our thumbs up our fucking buttholes.
Yeah.
So you're interviewing this guy and you're asking him about the dope. You found
Correct.
it. Is he in handcuffs at this point?
He is detained at this point, yes.
But not under arrest.
He is not under arrest.
Okay. So what's your next goal here?
So at that point, I'm still investigating whether, what kind of possession he has. So is it with possession with intent to deliver? Because again, the quantity is just so high. It's a normal, recreational use. You don't have this many bundles. It's crazy.
So teach our listeners how to overcome that hump. How do you go from possession to Mandel?
So, in my experience, again, I mean, the type of signs you want to look for, as far as from what I've run into, what I've been trained, again, is there large quantities of money? Is there large?
Don't give me the textbook answer.
Okay.
Okay. This isn't a fucking HIDA course. I could pay $185 for that. I want you, the fucking cop, tell me, like, what do you ask him? Hey, bud, where are you coming from?
So
where are you headed to?
Yeah, I'm asking him where he's going, where he's coming from.
How do you make your money?
It just wasn't adding up.
Yeah, does he have any cash on him? Yeah, all these,
So unfortunately, I mean, again, I'm investigating whether he had intent to deliver this. I'm asking him questions like, why do you have so much marijuana? Why do you have so much weed? What are you gonna do? Who did you buy it from? Where did you go to get this?
My friend, my cousin.
Go ahead.
My cousin. I bought it from my cousin.
Yeah.
I bought it from my friend.
Yep. So, it's kind of one of those things.
Facebook Marketplace.
Well, that's where the AirPods came from.
Right.
Yep, the AirPods came from Facebook Marketplace. What I did end up finding about the AirPods is, I mean, they look identical to realistic Apple products, but they weren't actually real.
Oh, did you find that out all on your own?
No, I didn't.
No. Oh, okay.
So
Through your amazing
so
detective skills.
No, so I mean, because this case was so complex, and honestly, I mean, it is a complex case.
No, absolutely.
It is.
Especially for a new guy.
Yeah. So I did end up calling you to help me out, and I remember you meeting me at the jail and interrogating him, and so.
And this dude was stalwart, right?
Yeah.
He would not give it up.
Break. He would not break.
Yeah.
No.
I'm threatening this guy, and I'm gonna fucking take your dog. I'm gonna take your mother's dog. Yep. I'm gonna take the fucking dog's dog, and we're throwing all these fucking.
Well, because all we know, he purchased the dog with the money.
You don't have
selling this dope.
You don't have to keep going on the dog thing. but he's not budging. He's not giving.
No, he's not.
And so you ended up charging him with
just possession.
Just possession.
Yeah, just possession.
Because we couldn't get it on him. And then we took his phone. We took those bullshit AirPods.
Correct.
Which we really couldn't tie to anything.
No.
What eventually happened with this? All our fucking hard work, all this fucking back and forths.
So, to this day, I really don't know what happened to the case. I can't recall whether the DA dropped it or not. I can't recall whether they did or not. But I didn't hear anything else after that.
Yeah, they dropped it.
Okay.
They dropped it because they claimed, remember, you had a supplement, you had to go back, and they said there wasn't sufficient reasonable suspicion for the traffic stop.
I remember you telling me that, and I was just like, I was blown away. I was just like, are you serious?
How does that make you feel?
To be honest, in that moment, it pissed me off because it was just more like, are you serious? How could you say that I don't have enough reasonable suspicion based off of a return that was provided to me?
We had the printed return.
Correct.
Confirming what you saw.
Correct. And the way I look at it is, okay, whether or not he had current registration or not, I still had at least reasonable suspicion to pull that vehicle over based off the return that I received.
Which is all you need.
Correct. And not only that, before I could even satisfy that reasonable suspicion, I had developed probable cause to search the vehicle. So that was frustrating to me, and I was just like, how could the DA throw that out? It was very frustrating. The man hours and effort, and to just be thrown out, to be honest with you. get to see the fatalities and the, some of the worst incidents you can encounter. So I do believe it does take an impact personally. It affects your family, the job. We're not prone to, we're not known to have the best schedules. So missed plenty of holidays, Christmases, Thanksgivings. When I say many, I mean as in maybe one. But even before that, again, doing security work and working in the jail, it kind of revolves the same thing. You have to work, and you're not there all the time for the family. And, it's just kind of one of those things where you can go to another profession if it really bothers you that much, you can. I think it's just one of those things that comes with being a street cop. You're gonna get the bad
shit.
end of it. You're gonna get the shit schedule. You're going to see the bad things. You're gonna see the good things. You're gonna see a mix of all. So yeah, I think, like I said, I think it's just kind of how you deal with that. What do you do to deal with that? For me, it was just more like whenever I spend time with my babies, with my family, it's kind of like it's a relaxation type of feeling, like it doesn't matter what you just saw 5 minutes ago. You got to live right here with them right now. You're here right there. You're here right now. So be there with them right now,
Even though you just saw someone
Yep.
expire in front of you 5 minutes ago.
Correct. Yep.
Tell me about, earlier you mentioned about this difficult fatality crash that you experienced. Was it your first?
It was my first fatality, yes.
Had you ever seen anything like that before in your life?
No, I've never seen, I'll be honest with you, besides my grandma passing away when I was younger, that's the only time I've really seen a dead body, to be honest with you.
And you said that you had just seen this person
Correct.
30 minutes prior to
Yep.
the crash.
So it was the same victim who suffered the fatality. We observed her. I was still in FTO. We observed her walking on the highway on the inside median at that.
We had dealt with her and her significant other many times in the
Okay.
past.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, we see her walking on the highway. We made contact with her, and she didn't want to leave from inside that median.
What was she doing?
Well, she was pushing back. She was walking away.
What had she been doing on the highway?
So they were traveling the opposite direction on the highway, and her boyfriend had threw the keys on the other side, on the other opposite direction from where they were traveling.
Keys to her own car.
To her vehicle, yes.
Right. They were in another vehicle, in his car.
Correct.
And then they had a fight,
Correct.
and she alleges that he took her keys and threw them out of the window.
Correct.
So now she's on the northbound side of the interstate looking for the keys.
On the inside median, yes.
Right. And of course, super dangerous, speed limit 75. And you guys are telling her, hey, you got to get out of the interstate.
Correct. So we restrain her for her safety because, again, I mean, it's a busy highway.
She's so resistive to your direction.
Correct.
Hey, get out of the highway. You got to stop looking for the keys. She refused. She wouldn't listen. She kept walking to the point where you finally had to put her in handcuffs.
Correct. At that point, we escorted her back to her vehicle. We had a mutual understanding from all three of us, because I'm in FTO as well, that...
It's you, your sergeant,
Correct.
and then the subject.
Correct. We kind of explained to her, and it still impacts me to this day because I think about it and I'm just like, Jesus, words matter, We told her, you cannot be on this highway or you will die. If you get hit by a car, you will die. And so I remember that vividly because my sergeant told her that. And since we came to an understanding, she said, I'm going to go home. And we kind of left it at that. We allowed her to leave. And she said she was going to go home. We leave the scene, and an hour later, that when we get a call about a major accident, we respond to the scene, and we notice it's her vehicle, the same vehicle that she was in whenever she was on the highway. And so being that, again, my sergeant have had previous encounters with her, I can understand that it was a very, very emotional situation for her. Even for me, you know, to be like, I just saw you an hour ago,
Right.
and now you're dead, you know. And
The boyfriend is a frequent flyer that we've arrested before multiple times.
Correct.
She's largely innocent. She's kind of a victim to his personality. She's often the victim of his little schemes and all his little doper friends. But she's never had any negative. We had never had any negative encounters with her necessarily. Never arrested her. Never summoned her. She was the quote unquote girlfriend. Also, these people are in their like late 50s, 60s. But
Yeah.
she is the one who, with the license, with the insurance,
Correct.
with the
home is in her name as well.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, he's the fucking loser, dingbat, dipshit.
Yep.
You know, and we knew that about her.
Correct.
Worked at a little restaurant in the nearby local town.
Yep.
You know, just harmless, stupid,
Yeah.
dumb, but harmless.
Yeah.
And for all intents purposes, nice as can be, always nice to us.
Very. She was, I mean, despite in that moment, whenever she was actively on the highway, whenever we were able to escort her back to the vehicle, she was very compliant.
Right.
Very understanding.
Right.
I guess it was just in the heat of a moment where she felt like she needed these keys.
Right.
She needed them.
So you come back out to this, you come out to this crash scene. What is the state of her vehicle? I mean, you recognize it, but
Yes. It was kind of hard at first to recognize the vehicle because her vehicle was embedded on the front end of an 18-wheeler, and the 18-wheeler had caught fire. So it was kind of hard to recognize the rear end of the vehicle.
both vehicles had caught
Yeah.
fire. She had.
Yes.
She was on the after you guys bottled her up. You let her go, and then she went back in her car and presumably drove away. But
Correct.
she, unbeknownst to you guys, she had returned to keep looking for the keys.
Correct. Yep.
She got back into her car, and then being on the shoulder, on the outside shoulder, meaning the right hand side,
Yes.
she pulled out into a major lane of traffic unsafely and was struck from the rear at about 65 miles per hour by this commercial vehicle. It wasn't an 18-wheeler, but it was a utility truck that was carrying a tank of inert chemicals or something like that.
Yeah,
And
I
then
remember that.
dragged along for about 700 feet until finally he's going diagonally to the left, careening into the inside median, which is the left side median concrete barrier, comes to rest, and then explodes in flames.
Correct. So yeah, whenever we arrived on scene, the Sarge recognized it immediately. For me, it took a minute because I was just like, I was just like, that can't be the vehicle. I was in a state of doubt. I was
Denial.
like, there's
no way.
There's no way.
That can't be her.
That can't. And so once we got up to the scene, it was in fact her vehicle. And it was just, I guess, a mixed emotions.
Tell me what those emotions were.
It was more of, could I have done something better to
Always.
prevent that?
Always your first reaction.
You know, especially because you just encountered this person. You know, I think that was the first thing that went through my mind is, how did this happen? And could I have done something better? But as I encounter more crashes as well, because I like to believe, well, I know as an FTO now, is that crashes are kind of one of the most high-paced calls we're going to get, especially whenever you have multiple victims, you have witnesses, and especially if it's a major accident, you know, you still have people who want to look at the crash and who are observant and want to be nosy, you know. Yeah. So I also had to realize this sucks what I'm feeling right now, but I still have to control my scene, you know. And that's kind of where I had to like make that switch and be like, okay, I'm sympathetic. I feel like this sucks, but you know, I still have a job to do at the end of the day because fire department still has to do their job. EMS still has to do their job, and they can't do their job whenever they have 20,000 people around them. So that's kind of one thing I do like to teach whenever, you know, now that I'm a trainer, I like to teach my recruits or trainees is that, look, It doesn't matter how. I mean, it does matter, what you're feeling. It does. And it sucks what this person or child is going through. It does. But we need to be able to control our scene. We need to be able to maintain evidence, preserve evidence. And only that, I mean, if you're acting as chaotic as everyone else around you, what help are you?
That was a difficult thing to see. How did you feel when you saw her? Because it was a pretty grisly scene.
Yes.
And what goes through your mind? How do you cope with it? How did you deal with it afterwards?
So, for me, it's kind of one of those things where you could see how she died. You can see that she tried to escape the vehicle.
Right.
Be able to picture that in your head, like, okay, what was she doing? How did she try to get out?
Yeah, I still remember it to this day. Yeah.
And, and it was just like, having to, I guess, reconstruct that incident in your head. It does take a toll on you because it's kind of like one of those things where it's just not a glimpse and you walk away. You have to literally stare at this scene and try to repicture it. And it does. I mean, it does kind of stay in your head. To this day, I can still remember seeing it. But how I cope with it, it was just more of the people around me, talking to them about it. I honestly truly do believe that your friends should not just revolve around law enforcement, but also I do think you should have a large quantity of officers that are your friends to talk about it, because I feel like the normal populace, the normal citizenry, whatever you call it, citizenry, citizenry, wouldn't really understand the kind of things that we go through, and being able to give us advice on how to overcome these emotions or this intense trauma that you just experienced.
Have you ever talked to your wife about it?
I have, but I'll be honest with you, I don't talk to her extensively as I would with law enforcement.
Right.
And my justification for that is because it's bad enough that I experience it, and you don't need to experience that. You don't need to see that. It's more of a coping mechanism for me. Because it's bad enough that I have to see it. You shouldn't. Again, and I do think it takes a toll as well. I think because you have your spouses who want to know everything that you do, who want to hear about the incident that you just encountered.
Right.
But it's kind of one of those things where I love you, but I can't talk to you about it, or I don't want to talk to you about it. Versus, an ordinary officer who's my friend. Oh yeah, this is how it happened. This is how it happened. This and this and that. So,
and they understand.
Yeah. Because, some officers may experience the exact same thing that you just went through.
I want to hear about the time that you got fussed at because you may or may not have brought a person who had just been released from the fucking county jail. So please tell me about that story.
In my defense.
Just tell the story organically.
Okay. So I saw a guy walking on the highway. Obviously, under community caretaking, I wanted to make sure he was okay. So I checked out with him.
And you checked all 4 pillars of community caretaking? Yeah.
Once I initiated contact with him, yes.
Okay, all right.
Once I initiated contact with him, yes.
Just making sure that you've satisfied all 4 pillars.
Yes. He did ask for a ride. And I offered a ride, and he said yes. So I ended up taking him to a neighboring city, and at his request, he wanted to be dropped off at his mother's house. So at that point, I did contact our county to see if there was a criminal trespass out there.
And you're leaving a very vital detail out.
I'm getting there.
He's just been released.
He had just been released for
assault. And he told you.
He had just been released for assault.
Against
his mother.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Please continue.
So at that point, again, he did have a criminal trespass at his mother's house, and to which I told him, I said, you can't go to your mother's house, man. You can't. And so I ended up finding out that he does have, not he, but I guess his family has 2 properties right next to his mother's house.
Right.
At that point, I've already offered a ride. It's a courtesy transport. So, I can either say, hey,
I'm dropping you off
I'm
here
dropping
at this
you off at a gas station
that's 11 feet away.
Or I can tell you 20 million times, don't go to your mom's. Don't go to your mom's. Don't go to your mom's.
Which would I have picked?
I'll be honest with you. I don't think I would have made anything different, to be honest with you.
Okay. It's fair to say that the family owns a large tract of property.
Correct.
And on each tract of property, which are adjoining, there's physical structure A and physical structure B. He had been criminally trespassed where his mother lives at physical structure A. You're making the decision, okay, I can possibly bring him to physical structure B.
Correct. Again, because he had a criminal trespass that I verified through the county from his mother's house.
And you even went one step further. You said, okay, I'm going to drop you off around the corner from physical structure B.
Correct.
And you told him more or less 473,200 times not to go back to his mother's place, right?
Correct.
So what was the fallout after that? I mean, how did this all come about and you getting fussed at?
So again, for me, it was just an ordinary consensual encounter, community caretaking encounter. I asked him, would you like for me to take you somewhere? He said he agreed to it. He said, yes, can you take me to my mom's house? But at that point,
there's no doubt it's consensual. But
correct.
So after this, you button it up. I'm clear. And then how do we?
I think approximately maybe no less than a week later. I can't remember how many days later.
It wasn't. It was like 5 days later because that happened on like a Thursday, and I was dealing with this mess on a Sunday.
Correct.
Yeah.
So we get an email saying that that this county is making deputies are making accusations that you guys dropped off this subject. To which I read the email.
The county calls me and says, "Hey, we arrested Bob Smith again for domestic violence at physical structure A, and he told us that he was brought back here by one of your offices from your agency."
Correct.
Now I should permeate the discussion with, he wasn't mad, this deputy. In fact, I knew him, and he was like, yeah, that's ha 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 ha, like, well, shit happens, and he's a dumbass and he's in custody, so fuck him. But I'm trying to get to the bottom of it. I'm investigating, and eventually you get a department-wide email from me.
Correct.
Explaining all this and saying essentially what?
Basically that they were accusing one of the police officers of...
From our agency.
Correct. Of dropping off the subject at his mother's house.
And after a thorough investigation...
It was determined that our officers, in fact, did not participate or...
So fuck this guy. So fuck this deputy.
Well, at that point, whenever I'm reading the email, because I remember it was maybe about 12 o'clock in the morning or something, maybe 1 o'clock a.m.
Yeah, it was late.
Something like that. It was really,
I'm going to
really
insert a sound here, post-production, of a phone vibrating.
So, yeah, I read the email, and I'm looking through it, and I'm just like, they don't know. They don't know that I transported the subject 6 days ago. And...
You're free and clear.
Yes, essentially, yes, I am. They have already developed that their conclusion of the investigation was unfounded.
Right, so fuck the county. They don't know what they're talking about.
Correct. But in that moment, whenever, again, I'm reading the email, I'm thinking, I can just say nothing. And probably 80% chance, 90% chance that they will never find out.
Right.
Obviously this is a big enough issue for, and since our supervisor to say, hey, this wasn't, they made an accusation, but I found it to be unfounded. And I could have just left it there. But in deep down inside of me, I was just like, is that the best solution though? Because I'm contemplating in my head. I think we have that natural instinct. I do truly believe that lying is a natural instinct.
Well, it's self-preservation, right?
Correct.
Right.
Again, you're in a position where this isn't in the best interest of me, so I'd rather not do it.
Right, like put your hand over the hot stove.
Correct. So, in my head, I'm thinking two things. I cannot say anything, and no, nothing will be done about this. Like, I'm not going to suffer any. I'm not going to suffer any disciplinaries. Essentially, in my head, nothing's going to happen from this if I don't say anything. Or I can step up. I can tell the truth, or at least make them privy to the details that they may have not had of this night. But I can incent. But if I do come forward and say that, I may suffer some kind of disciplinary, because obviously this is not something that you would have taken easily.
And you decided to do what?
I called you, and I told you, I don't think this. I told him, this is like, I can't recall, but I remember saying, I ended up telling you, hey, this isn't true. I did drop him off.
All right.
And I gave you the details about what happened.
What was my reaction?
Oh, man. I remember it to this day. Cussed at. A hard, direct kind of verbal disciplinary, I guess.
Had I ever been that angry at you?
No.
Right.
No. To this day, still no.
Because I've always viewed you as a friend, and respect, even if it was a direct order. Hey, can you please, right? I mean, I you can stop me, but even in the field, right? Please and thank yous, please.
Correct.
I'm a big believer in
that.
And so, I had some choice words for you.
Very impactful at that.
Impactful. And
yes.
So what's the fallout?
So I remember telling you the details about it, and you ordered me to write up an email of the
Give me your
incident.
statement.
So I don't remember word by word, but I did end up telling you that I made contact with him because he was on the side of the roadway.
Your bullshit. All right,
yeah,
go on.
Yeah, and the facts of the incident.
And then here comes my write-up.
Yep.
Which is about no less than 8 pages.
Well, it was about, it was a lengthy. I was just like, Jesus.
I'm a little. You could accuse me of being a little wordy, a little verbose.
Like, how much information did you gather on this? You know what I'm saying? So, but yes. So again, I can't remember how long after the incident, from the time of I submitted my email statement to you, that was the conclusion of the IA investigation.
Are you on pins and needles?
At that point, yes. I'm just like, I need to calm down. I can't be...
Small department, still having to come into work and see me. You're not on suspension or anything.
Correct.
Pins and needles.
Correct. And I remember, I do remember this as well. Even during the IA investigation, I attempted to talk to you about it.
Right.
And you wouldn't budge. And I was just like, okay. Because at that point, I hadn't received notice that I was officially on an IA investigation.
Right.
But I knew something was going to come up of it.
Right.
In the back of my head, I'm just like, there's no way he's not going to do anything. Like, I know something's going to happen. So I think it was like the longest, maybe week. I think it was the longest week of my life. I'm just like,
about a week.
I'm like, fuck, man. Am I going to have a job tomorrow? Like, should I just start gathering my uniforms and, getting ready to turn it in or something like that, So it was very, very
nerve-wracking.
Very nerve-wracking coming to work every day, and on top of that, I still have to do my normal patrol duties and respond to calls and stuff like that. On the back of my head, I'm just like, okay, unofficially I know I'm being investigated. I know that.
Right.
So if I do something else in the course of this internal investigation, is that it for me? So it was a very, very long, stressful week for me.
So you get the write-up, and
I get the write-up.
What's the discipline?
So there is no discipline there. It's a written reprimand. It's a written reprimand that there is no actual.
There's no suspension.
Physical, punishment.
Right, and believe me, I wanted to physically punish you. Believe me, if I could swap out all that fucking memo writing for just fucking whooping your ass. But basically, what we're saying is you got a written reprimand that remains in your file. After 6 months, it disappears forever. Mm-hmm. It concluded the investigation.
Correct.
I chewed your ass.
Correct.
You disagreed with it a little bit.
I did.
Yeah, and
I did.
You said you asked me, can I appeal it? Can I? We talked about that, and your main point of contention was, I guess, what you're saying, or like you said earlier, you don't feel like you necessarily would have done anything differently. Which to this day I still hold as fucking asinine. But But so, what did you learn from this experience?
So, I like to put myself in both of our shoes as well. I can see it from an administrative standpoint, how this could have been a humongous amount of liability. Whatever I had.
Let's start off with it's embarrassing.
Very. I would agree with you.
Right.
Even an accusation in itself from another department is embarrassing, whether it's truthful or not.
The fallout from this and your feeling, and it could have been embarrassing. It was embarrassing at the minimum. At the bare minimum, it's embarrassing. At the worst, liability.
Correct.
You had a decision to make. You could have said, and you talked about it a little bit, right?
Correct.
I didn't have to say anything.
Correct.
What makes you say, okay, I need to step up and talk about this and tell the truth?
For me, it was more of a instance omission.
Because an omission's a lie.
Correct. It was more of not making you privy to the amount of information I've had. Whenever you've already concluded your investigation and you were closed it out, case closed, shut. But for me, it was more of, I still have to work with this guy every single day, knowing that I didn't give him everything. I didn't give him all the details that I know. But not only that, also, I think about it from a liability standpoint as well. If something would have came up from this 6 months ago, 8 months ago, maybe 2 years from now, what if, the DA does their own investigation, they find, in fact, well, your officer did drop him off. How does that look on the officer?
Well, he may have a venerable affirmative defense to the criminal trespass charge.
Yeah.
The mom could have gotten hurt or killed.
Yeah.
But you stepped up and you did something. I want to highlight this. You did something that a lot of people are faced with, this decision of, okay, this could be bad for me. You talked earlier about self-preservation, but it's something I just gotta say something. I just gotta come out from it. And you step forward, and earlier you said our word is our bond, for lack of a better word, our integrity, the way we handle things, and our word is everything.
Correct. I really do think, even in today's day, I think a police officer's statement, or, I still think the statements we make, whether it's in court, whether it's in the field, still hold value, in sense this officer has to be telling the truth because he's a cop.
Right. We're given deference.
Correct. It's kind of one of those things where, it's my word, a police officer's word over a citizen's word, in which it does hold weight. Both of them hold weight.
Mm-hmm.
But in the totality of the circumstances, I do believe that a police officer's word will hold more weight than a general citizen's word. Because again, I think we have this power to where you have to be truthful because somebody's life, essentially somebody's freedom, life, depend on it. So you need to be truthful. So going back, how that correlates to my decision on telling you was because, again, if I can't be truthful with you, how can I be truthful in court? Or if this does end up coming up later on, and they find out I'm not being truthful, worst case scenario, they say this officer's his testimony is untruthful. It's unreliable.
Well, now you're Brady'd.
Now you're going to be placed on the Brady list.
Are you going to be able to work for us anymore?
Nope. You won't even be able to be a cop anymore.
And relating back to your intoxication, manslaughter, the easy way or the hard way that is going to cause grief, pain, agita, anxiety for you, and you choose the hard way because?
For me, it was more of I want to gather the most information I can possible.
It's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And we always have to choose the right thing.
Correct.
You can't put a price on your integrity.
No. But also, again, we're not the only ones that suffer from this. It's also our victims. In something like this, where, again, the intoxication manslaughter or intoxication assault, she didn't ask for this. She didn't want to live this kind of life. She didn't ask to be essentially brain dead. So, and her family, it doesn't just affect the persons involved. It affects everything. It affects the family. If she works, it affects the work environment. So
So whether it's the victims and her family,
correct,
or it's your integrity,
correct,
it's worth it.
Yep.
Portions of the day's programming are reproduced by means of electrical transcriptions or tape recordings.
Thanks so much for listening and spreading the word about the show. Comment to let us know what you'd like to hear and see, and visit our website at nfipodcast.com for news and merch. Support us by becoming a Patreon member, buy us a coffee, or pay our student debt. Keep in touch via all platforms to hear new episodes on a sort of weekly basis. It just depends on how many people I have to yell at that particular week. I'll see you out there. In the meantime, stay safe and remember, do your job.
Flashback back to 72, another summer in the neighborhood, hanging out with nothing to do. Sometimes we go driving around in my sister's Pinto.